Hello, in this video, I am going to walk you through the IEP. In the other videos, we focused just on the BIP, or the Behavior Intervention Plan. In this video, we're just going to take a brief overlook of what you will find in the IEP, or the Individual Education Plan. So on this first page here, you will find just the generic information about the name, birth date, gender, where they live, parents, and who was at the IEP meeting. The next page here, at the top, you will find strength, interests, and preferences. This is a good place to get to know your child, or the student you're working with, and what they're good at, what they're interested in, and what their preferences are, along with what their parents at the meeting, their concerns for this year. The next part of the IEP just gives you an oversight of what's in the IEP. So if they have a behavior, that would be checked yes. Communication, health, English, if they're limited English, if Braille is needed, or if assistive technology is needed. We have not had many students with assistive technology, but if your student does have assistive technology, we will give you more training on what technology and what that looks like for them. Then also the other question is other information essential for developing this IEP? A lot of times this will be on the next page, just because once you fill in the parent concerns and their strengths and interests, it will move that down to the next page. A lot of times you will find if they did have health, their different health needs, or any other thing that the parent has shared with us that we think would be helpful to know when working with the student. The last question here that would be on this page is just the oversight of why they have an IEP and what are the student skills. So a lot of times in that, you'll have a paragraph or two just indicating what delays they have in their education, and then that would be reflected in the goals. After you get that done, you move right into the goals. So depending on how many goals, they will have a different goal page for each goal. At the top here, you would have the goal area and the domain. So a lot of times you'll see reading and reading. A lot of times they match. Then the first question is just the current achievement. So in that box, the first paragraph will sort of describe their current level of performance, what they can do on their own. The next paragraph or so will sort of tell you what what peers in that child's class can do, sort of compare the two. The third paragraph then will give you what the Iowa Core says that grade level student should be able to do. And then there will be a blurb about how this will affect their education in the general education classroom. The next is the baseline. So this will be their progress monitoring each week, where they're going to start out. A lot of times you see your student reading a passage from the Fast Passage book. So it would just say that currently Johnny is able to read 36 words a minute. The next part then would be their goal, and that's usually written for a year out. So if I was writing the IEP and we were having the IEP today, it would say by May of 20 May 28th of 2021, Johnny would read, and we would set a goal of words per minute. The next paragraph here would be how we will progress monitor it and how often we would, and then how would we know when to make changes. So a lot of times it's for reading, it would be a fast progress monitoring passage once a week, and then we would graph it weekly and make changes at least once a month. Instead of saying once a month, usually we say 4 data points though. For behavior goals, it will say that we will graph or we will collect data daily and graph weekly. And then this next part is just sort of like we fill out report cards then each conference period and at the end of the year, just to update parents how they're going on meeting that goal and sort of give them an insight of what we're working on at that point to meet that goal. The next pages will have the services. So each goal we have, there will be a service in there of specially designed instruction. So this would be a specially designed instruction for reading. If the special ed teacher is doing any time in the general education classroom, they would put that time there. Right now, we do not have any IEPs that have time in the general education classroom. They're all pulled out in the special education classroom, and that time would go there. And then who will be providing it? That will be your special education teacher, and then sort of what they're working on. Again, they will have a service for each goal area they have. Also in services, this is a lot of times where you will find if they have associate minutes and how many associate minutes they have. Then we have the activities and supports. This is where you find if the student needs visual schedules or testing accommodations or more wait time or seated in a special spot in the classroom. There's a whole bunch of accommodations or services that we can provide that student to ensure the best learning for them. And right here is where you would find those. Future services, you usually only see, we usually don't work with those. For example, when I wrote my 5th graders IEPs this year, I put some future services in there for middle school. When preschool wrote their IEPs this year, they also would put in future services for kindergarten. But once they get in kindergarten or middle school, the special education teacher will take those services and move them up to actual services. So then that again would be blank. All IEPs will have this little box. It's just calculated by the system, just telling us how much of the day is in the general education classroom and how much of the day is removed from the general education classroom or in special education. This page, I'll sort of walk through it fast, but as you're running the IEP, you won't really have to worry much about this page. It's just asking, does the student qualify for ESY or extended school year? Does the person qualify for specialized transportation or special school? All the kids that come to Karen Acres or any other school in the district are not at a special school. And then physical education. If your student has a behavior intervention plan and associate minutes, this physical education will be modified just to say that the associate or the BIP will be ran during physical education. So if they would like to take a break, they may. If they earn a reward, they may get that reward. And then the next sort of deals with either state test or classroom test, and then if they would participate in those, which all our students will, and then most of our students will do that with accommodations, and it will have the accommodations right here. A lot of them get unlimited time, alternate work location for quietness, and breaks. They can have breaks during their test. None of our kids right now qualify for alternate assessment. A lot of times you will only see those in the level 3 kiddos that are at Webster right now. This is the same thing for non-district wide tests. Same format there. And then this is just some considerations to some questions that we will answer. These will all be yes, except for this one. This will be no, and then we will describe that they will be pulled out for their SDI time. And then this part just says that we will update the parents and how many times a year on how they're doing on their IEP. And this last page, if there's any other information that we want to include this IEP, this is where it will be. A lot of times that is where I share about their EL test scores and what they're working on in EL right now. I hope this helped, and if you have any questions, please remember to ask us.